Well, hey there, and welcome to Unmistakably You. It is another Wednesday, and we are back here with you talking about all things weddings. So, welcome. If you're newly engaged, congratulations. I'm Amy, and I'm a wedding planner and educator here in London, Ontario. I own Unmistakably You. We do 40 to 50 weddings normally in a year. Last year we did 66. Thank you, COVID. And our whole goal in joining you here on Wednesdays is to help you hopefully stay sane through a little bit of knowledge because knowledge is power, right? So we are here to hopefully help you navigate the wedding planning process with some grace and some sanity and hopefully still in love with your partner by the time you get to your wedding day. So welcome. We are here tonight to continue our 2-month series for 2023. We decided that for January and February, we were going to tackle some booking tips. So we've been talking all about how to book your musicians or your DJ, how to book your venue, your catering, how to book your officiant. And today we are here talking to you about how to book your florist and your decorator. And so, as always, I encourage you, if you are joining us here, pop a comment in, say hi, ask a question, make a comment if I say something that resonates. I'm more than happy to help. That's why I'm here. That's why we're live. If you're catching us on the replay, though, we are still here and more than willing to chat. So pop a comment in and I'll answer it, or send me a private message, or you can always email me at amy@unmistakably.you.com. So without further ado, we're going to pop right into floral and decor. Now, I'll be honest with you, you can absolutely get married without any flowers or any decor, and nobody is going to care. If you get married and you're making a commitment to the person you love, and your guests are there because they love and support you, you absolutely do not need flowers or decor at all. Now, if you know me at all, love flowers. That is one of my most favorite parts of the wedding day. When those flowers get delivered, they really just kind of change the entire atmosphere in the room. It adds color, it adds personality, it adds kind of like an idea of thought and caring. And so I love it when those flowers show up. And I love to see a well decorated room because it is a reflection, often, if it's done well, of your personalities and who the two of you are. And it creates this cohesive, beautiful atmosphere that's going to help your guests to have an elevated experience. Necessary? No, but beautiful, personal, elevated? Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about floral and decor. We've talked about specific details for how to pull together a decor theme and how to decorate before. So you can go back in our archives. They're all on YouTube if you want to check out some of our specific videos on how to pull together or how to execute a design theme. But today we're just going to talk more about the preliminaries of booking your professionals and how to actually create that overall aesthetic that you're looking for. So first of all, when to book. And I mean, realistically, you can probably nail things down at any point in terms of putting your date on a florist's calendar or getting your name in with a decorator to make sure that you don't lose out on your date. But realistically, you'll find that you're not able to really do a whole lot of the nuts and bolts and the fine details with regard to color or flower types or shape and size of bouquet. Generally speaking, you'll want to talk specifics with your florist after you've done attire, because that's going to help kind of guide the direction of the flowers with regard to the shape and the style of your dress or the colors of the attendants' attire, whether it's bridesmaids or groomsmen. Those kinds of things are going to play into the overall color scheme of both the floral and the decor. With regard to decor, you'll also want to make sure that you have an idea of the overall layout of the reception room. So you'll want to know things like why my internet just flashed. Not sure if that just happened on your end, but hopefully we're still good. You'll want to know things like how many auxiliary tables you're going to have. Are you going to have a guest book and gift table as one? Are you going to have a guest book table separate from gift? Are you going to have a cake table? So these are the kinds of things that decorators are going to want to know. And you can certainly tweak these things as you go. But if you can go in with as much information as possible to both your florist and your decorator, that's going to be helpful. You're also going to want to have a solid sense of your budget, as well as your overall theme or the feeling or general aesthetic, guiding adjectives maybe of the day. So you'll want to have an idea of how much money you have to devote to your floral and decor, as well as whether you want it to be classic or modern or boho or whimsical. So those are kinds of directions that will help to guide your florist and decorator. So before you really get into talking too much detail with those pros, you want to have nailed down your attire, your colors, your budget, and your theme and overall aesthetic. Now, things to consider, your wedding, if it's well designed, like I said, is going to appear more cohesive, and it's going to elevate that guest experience. And a couple of ways that you're going to probably come across as you're working with design professionals is that you're going to be looking for some repetition of elements and colors, shapes and textures, that kind of thing. Like I mentioned before, there is usually some kind of a discussion about how to incorporate your personality. And that is one of my favorite parts, is finding creative little ways to just kind of sneak it in there. And then you'll also want to think about creating cohesion and repetition through every visual element of your entire day. And that starts right from stationery, from invitations or save the dates, through to your day of stationery. So signage, table numbers, place cards, menu cards, that sort of thing. And that carries through your linens, your attire, and your florals as well. So creating that intentional, cohesive look is very much about repetition of elements. Where to find florists and decorators is very similar to my advice on where to find other wedding pros. So if you've been keeping up with this series, you'll know that I often recommend that you just scroll around on the internet for a little while, do a Google search, check out Instagram, check out Facebook, ask for recommendations from friends who've been recently married or from other people in wedding groups who are usually more than happy to chime in with their recommendations, either positive or negative. So, you know, just be aware that you're in many cases going to get lots of feedback in some of those Facebook swap and sell groups. And ask your other vendors for recommendations as well. I'm always a fan of this because your vendors that you've hired already, presumably you've hired because you like and trust them. And so their opinion is going to carry some weight. Now, just be a little bit cautious with that. I mean, if we're talking specifically about booking florists and decorators, sometimes your photographer doesn't have any or very little interaction with those professionals on the day because their times just don't overlap. You know, oftentimes the florist kind of sneaks in and sets up the centerpieces and drops off the bouquet and has very little crossover with any of the other vendors. And sometimes your decorator will decorate the night before the wedding or very early the morning of. So it's going to kind of play into your photographer's ability to recommend a florist and a decorator if they haven't really had much interaction with many of those professionals. So you may find that your best success, if you're asking for recommendations from other vendors that you've hired, is going to come from your venue, because your venue manager is going to be the one that greets the decorator when they come in, that sees them as they're working for hours, you know, the night before or the day before your wedding. They're oftentimes going to be there when the florist is setting up. So venues are a great place to ask for recommendations, and oftentimes they'll actually have preferred vendor lists. You also obviously can go to your planner, because if you've got a planner in any capacity, I mean, when we do full service planning, obviously we are very, very closely tied into that whole vendor selection process. But even when we do a day of coordination, we're more than happy to provide names and contact information for the vendors that we truly love working with, because from our perspective, if we can help you hire great vendors and plan a great day, it's a lot easier for us to manage on the day. So regardless where you find those vendor names, read the reviews. I'm always harping on reviews. Meet in person. Realistically, it is not that important that you are BFFs with your florist and your decorator. You have to trust them to execute your vision, absolutely. I mean, if you get a little bit of a weird vibe, or if some of their pictures you don't love, find someone else, because it's all about the product. It's not so much about the personality with a florist and a decorator, because you're not going to be working with them closely on the day of your wedding, like you will be with your planner, like you will be with your photographer, your videographer. So you don't have to necessarily want to hang out for coffee or anything like that, but you need to trust them to execute your vision. And so what that means is that you need to see lots and lots of examples of their work. Something that I'm kind of jealous of florists and decorators for is that they can depict their work in photographs, whereas I can't. What I do is pretty intangible as a planner. Whereas they can easily say, yep, here's a picture of a bouquet that I made in your colors, or here's a picture of some altar arrangements that are in your boho style, or, here's a time that I decorated the hall that you're getting married at. So ask for specific photos. If you're meeting with a florist or a decorator, ask them if they've decorated at your venue before, or if they've done flowers there, if they've done flowers or decor in your season or your colors or your overall aesthetic. So ask for specifics. If you are going for that really kind of rustic boho kind of natural look, and all you're seeing are pictures of tight round rose bouquets in like whites and blushes and reds and yellows, that's all they can show you. They're probably a very talented florist, but they're probably not going to be a good fit for you. So do try to find as many visuals as you can of things that appeal to you, because they mesh with your aesthetic. Now, how the process works varies dramatically from professional to professional, and this is true across the board with officiants, with DJs, with any vendor in the wedding industry. Everyone has their own process, but I'm going to suggest to you that oftentimes with floral and decor, the process is going to differ dramatically depending on how high a priority floral and decor is for you and how much you are investing. Now, if you're investing a lot because the aesthetics are high on your priority list, then my assumption is going to be that you're probably also working with a planner, in which case, if you're working with a full service planner, a lot of us do put together design proposals. And so that process, again, looks different from planner to planner. But when I do it, it's with a couple that I've been working with already for a number of months. I have a really solid grasp on their budget. And then I have them fill out another questionnaire about all kinds of things, personal details about their relationship and what's on their coffee table and what kind of jewelry they like to wear and all these kinds of things. And then with the knowledge that I already have of the couple and the questionnaire and their budget information, I pull together a really detailed decor proposal, design and decor proposal that incorporates every element from stationery through to floral and linen and decor. And we go over it, and I see what resonates, and I see where maybe I missed the mark, and I tweak things. And ultimately we have this visual document. I like to do it in a digital slideshow format. And ultimately the finished product is a visual document that we can take to the vendors that I'm recommending who would be a good fit to execute the vision of the couple. And so that is a service that I provide in conjunction with my full service planning clients, but it's also a service that some planners and decorators and designers provide exclusive of planning. So if you are going to be prioritizing the visual elements higher than some of your other elements and you're devoting a fair chunk of your budget to it, you might want to look into hiring a designer as opposed to just a florist decorator. Now, some florists and decorators do provide overall design services for the entire scope of the wedding as well, and some don't. So, as I say, everyone's process is different. It's not good, it's bad, or bad, it's not right or wrong. It's just that every process is different. Now, if design and floral and decor are a high priority, you may want to work with someone who provides both floral and decor services within their company. So whether they are a decorator and florist, or whether it's a team of decorator and florist who work together, or a larger team, you may want to look into that as an option, just because it's going to improve the cohesion of your day. And it's going to reduce your legwork as well. If you're working with one company who has a really solid grasp on the entire vision of the whole day, that's going to benefit you, because then you're not going back and forth between a separate florist and a separate decorator, and you're not trying to source rentals on your own and that kind of thing. A full service company will do all of that for you, and they will oftentimes pull together that design proposal for you. And again, that process varies from professional to professional, but that may be an option to investigate if decor is a huge priority for you. Now, if you are working with separate florist and decorator and it's a big priority, obviously there needs to be some communication between those two companies if they're separate businesses. So finding companies that are willing to work together is important, and keeping those lines of communication open is really important as well. So maybe booking a site visit for yourself, the florist and the decorator, to get together on site and really talk through the entire vision while you're in the space. That can be really beneficial in terms of creating those links between the floral and decor, even if they're coming from a different company. Now, if you're not devoting a large part of your budget to floral and decor, or if it's a lower priority, or if you're more of a DIY kind of a couple, then that probably changes things a little bit. In those cases, you probably aren't working with a designer. You probably are working with a separate florist and a separate decorator, or you may even be sourcing your decor yourself, and that's totally cool. But again, I encourage you to keep those principles in mind of repetition to create cohesion. And that goes through every stationary element, every floral element, every linen. All of those things need to tie together really seamlessly in order to create that overall cohesion that we're hoping for. So you're looking for fonts, graphics, and colors on all of your stationery to tie together. You're looking for the colors to be cohesive in your linens and your attire, as well as textures. You know, if you have a lace wedding gown, then perhaps you want to look at lace overlays on your auxiliary tables, things like that. You want to be looking at shapes, colors, textures, and styles in your florals, and making sure that everything works together. So sitting down with your partner, or with your maid of honor, or your advisor, or your mom, whoever that is, and just kind of talking through some of those pillars that you are going to set in place, that are going to sort of guide your decor and floral decisions. So filter everything through that lens. If your wedding is whimsical, then filter everything through the whimsical lens. When you're booking your flowers, when you are renting your decor, or when you're booking a decorator, filter everything through the whimsical lens. Does this fit with that overall theme? And then you'd also need to make sure, if you are working with separate professionals and you're taking more of a DIY approach, you need to make sure that you are communicating so clearly about the overall vision. Your decorator needs to know what your florist is doing on your head table. And if your florist is providing any kind of arrangements that are going to be on or behind or beside the head table, your decorator needs to know that. If they're doing any kind of draping or specialty linen or head table backdrop. So it's really important that all of the professionals that are involved in the visual element of your day are on the same page. And if you are more of a DIY kind of a couple, that ultimately is probably going to fall to you. Now, ultimately, we know that floral and decor aren't priorities for everybody. They're high on my list, but not for everyone. But regardless of where the aesthetics stand on your overall priority list, a little bit of intentionality and some well-placed touches, like choosing to focus on those really very focal points, like your head table, like your altar at your ceremony. Those kind of impactful statements can go a long way and elevate your event to the next level. So thank you for joining us here. Again, I encourage you, if you're catching us on the replay, pop in a comment, just say hi, send me any questions to amy@unmistakably.you.com. We're going to be joining you next week, continuing this series with booking tips for bartenders if you are at a venue that allows you to manage your own bar. And we'll also get into a couple of details about the logistics of DIYing your bar, because it can get a little bit messy, and I'm here to guide you through that. Likewise, we are here to guide you through all of the things. So if you haven't checked them out yet, our spring workshops are up on our website. It's unmistakably.you.com/workshops. We've got an absolutely dynamite series of workshops coming up starting on February the 27th. We are going to talk you all the way through that budget. And so if you are newly engaged, I cannot stress enough how important it is to plan your budget before you plan anything else. You need to be on the same page, and you need to have a realistic idea of what things are going to cost you. So I'm going to help you with that. We've got a really awesome vow workshop coming up with Jody from Something New Officiant. It's actually almost sold out. So if you want in on that one, you want to learn how to write really meaningful personal vows, hop on over to that website right now and get registered. We're doing on March 20th, a DIY workshop. So if you are not in a position to have a professional coordinator, we still really believe that you shouldn't be the one who is managing your day. You shouldn't be answering the phone. You shouldn't be solving problems. So come see us for our DIY workshop, and we're going to teach you how to set up your itinerary so everything flows smoothly. And we're going to tell you those things that you can pass off to that cousin or that friend who is willing to help you manage things so that you don't have to work on your wedding day. And then finally, in April on the 11th, we have a first dance workshop with Clara of See You Move. And it is going to be absolutely awesome in that it's not this onerous choreographed first dance that you have to devote hours and hours to. Claire's just going to walk you through some tips, how to hold each other, how to execute a couple of simple moves that are going to make you look a lot more comfortable on the dance floor. So pop on over to unmistakably.you.com, check out those workshops. They are filling up fast, so make sure that you get yourself registered. We don't want you to miss out. And I will see you here again next week. Have a great week. Happy planning. Bye-bye.